I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thank you so much for joining us on a Monday night. My guest tonight charted 21 singles on the Billboard country charts from 1974 to 1988. And two of those songs made it into the top 10, including his signature song, There's a Song on the Jukebox. He's back with a couple brand new albums and so many great songs that he has written for artists like Charlie Pride, the Oak Ridge Boys, John Schneider, Mo Bandy, Garth Brooks, Keith Whitley, and the list just goes on and on. And he's here to talk about his fantastic career tonight. It's a pleasure to welcome David Wills to My Kind of Country. David, how are you tonight?
Hey, Scott, I'm doing great. How about you?
Well, I couldn't be any better. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Well, thank you, sir, for having me. I appreciate that.
Well, right away, I want to let folks know that you can go to davidwillsmusic.com, which is David's official website, and he's got a couple brand new albums, one called Just for the Record that just came out this year, right, David?
That's right, yeah.
And then we have the singer, the songwriter, which is, I guess I would kind of call that a reintroduction to your hits and everything. You re-recorded a bunch of your greatest hits for this project.
Yeah, I did. I re-recorded two of my big hits when I was a recording artist. There's a song on the jukebox and From Barrooms to Bedrooms. And then the rest of the songs are songs that I've had cut on major artists that turned out to be big records, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, you can get that, either one of those albums at David's website. And, of course, you can get them on Amazon and Spotify and Apple Music and all those great places that we download music. And I encourage you to pick those up. And, again, we're going to play some of those great songs for you tonight, as well as some of David's older material from back in the good old Epic days, and talk about all that. So great to have you tonight. David, before we really get into the meat and potatoes and everything, what have you been up to this year? Are you doing a lot of touring and things like that?
We've done quite a few dates this year across the country, and we're basically just gearing up right now for next year. It's seemed like after Labor Day, things kind of even out and slow down a little bit. So we have some other things to do this year, but we're basically getting things all lined up for next year.
Well, that's great. Well, I know you've stayed busy all through the years, and you've done a lot of session work and things of that nature behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit about some of the things you've worked on.
Aside from songwriting, every time I would be involved in the writing of a song, I would go into the studio and do professional demos of these songs, and I would sing them and I'd produce the demos. And matter of fact, these two new albums that I have out, I co-produced with my good buddy Bill Shore, who's been my main songwriting partner for the last 40 years. And Bill and I went and produced these two albums, and they were just really came together. Great stuff.
Tell me about some of the great songs that you've written for other people.
Wrote a little song. You've heard of the group Sawyer Brown.
Of course.
Bill Shore and I wrote a song called Can I Lean on You, Leona, or just Leona. And that was their very first record out of the box, and it was a top 20 record for them. They won Star Search with that song, and went on to be great friends with everybody. And also I wrote If You're Thinking You Want a Stranger, There's One Coming Home for George Strait. You're the Last Thing I Needed Tonight for John Schneider, which is #1 record. Wild Horses for Garth Brooks. Thank God for that.
That was a big one.
That song has sold a lot of records. I'll tell you a little story about it. The song came out on the No Fences album. Wild Horses came out on the No Fences album. And it sold 17 million RIAA certified records. And one day, 10 years later, after the album had already been out, I got a phone call from Kent Blasey, who's had a lot of hit records, If Tomorrow Never Comes, and several others on Garth Brooks. And he told me, David, congratulations on your new single. And I said, well, Kent, what are you talking about? And he said, well, Garth has decided to release Wild Horses as the next single. And so I called up Bill Shore, who's my co-writer on it, and we did our happy dance for a little bit. And we were just thrilled that we were going to get a single. After 10 years, the album had already been out. I don't know if that's ever happened before to anybody, 10 years later to get a single on somebody. Maybe I ought to check that out for the Guinness Book, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But anyway, through all the other projects that the song had been on and everything, we've sold somewhere in the vicinity of 25 to 26 Charlottesville, North Carolina, with Dean Dillon and Charles Quillen, a couple other guys, one other guy. And it's called Charlottesville, North Carolina, on Keith Whitley.
Oh, yeah.
A Line on Love from Martina McBride.
One of the ones that I really love, in fact, I just had Lacey on my show, Lacey J. Dalton, Walk That Line.
Oh, yeah.
And you wrote a song that I love, too, that Con Hunley recorded, They Never Lost You. That's another
Oh, wow. You're digging way, way back.
Oh, man. Like I said, I've been a fan for a lot of years, and I pay attention to songwriters, and those are songs that I love. I just...
I think that's probably one of the first songs I ever had recorded by a major artist, you know.
Is that right? Wow.
I was like, yeah, I was writing for Pie Jim and Chess Music at the time, which was Tom Collins and Charlie Pride's company. And Tom Collins, one of the biggest record producers in Nashville at the time. He produced Ronnie Millsap and Barbara Mandrell and a bunch of other folks. And he produced Con Hunley, and we got a cut on him with it. And it's a pretty good record, too. I love Con's voice. He's a really good singer.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that's that whole era of musicians and artists. You can tell they've got their own signature sound, and you know who they are. You know, and that's kind of missing in the radio today with a lot of the artists. It's hard to tell who they are. They sound so much the same. You know, they don't have that signature sound.
That's true. You know, in today's country radio, I don't know how this got started, but nobody introduces the artist anymore and says, that's David Will singing such and such song. A lot of the music comes on, you don't know who it is.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. The nice thing with my show is that all my when you listen to my show on the player, it comes up with all the songs and it tells who it is. So that's really nice, you know.
Terrific.
Yeah. David, when you first started in the business, was it your intention to be a songwriter strictly, or did you have aspirations to get into the performance side of the business?
It was my aspiration to be a recording artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it came about in such a Cinderella story for me that I look back on it now sometimes and I go, it's hard to believe. I did a little background. I did a talent show in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was approached by Charlie Rich's manager. His name was Cy Rosenberg. And he walked up to me after the talent show and he said, "Son, you want to be a star?" And I said, "Well, of course. Where do I sign up?" He said, "Come down to my office Monday morning at 8 o'clock. And we're going to take care of some business." So I was at his office 8 o'clock in the morning, and I signed a publishing deal with him. I signed a management contract with him. And 2 weeks later, he called me up and said, "Dude, I got you a deal on Epic Records." Wow. And I was just thrilled to pieces.
Yeah.
We came to Nashville, and I was at the Spence Manor with Charlie Rich, and Charlie said, "David, get your guitar and come over here and sing me everything that you know." And, of course, I'm sitting there with the great Charlie Rich, and I'm just sweating bullets. And my manager came busting through the door with a reel-to-reel tape in his hand. Of course, that's what the medium we used back then was reel-to-reel. He said, "Put this on and listen to it and learn it. We're going to record this at 2 o'clock." And it was like 12 o'clock. And so I had 2 hours to learn the song. And it was, there's a song on the jukebox, "I Want to Drink, Here's a 20. And so when Billy Sherrill and Carmel Taylor wrote the song, Billy Sherrill was the president of Epic Records in Nashville at the time. And when he came back in from lunch with George Jones, the song was supposed to have gone to George Jones, but it wound up going to me. So when he came back from lunch and everything, we played the song for Billy Sherrill, and he said, "I think it's a hit. Let's put it out." And by golly, it was a hit, all right. It went off like a rocket.
It's one that I play often on my shows. I still get requests for the song, and it just has staying power. It's a timeless song. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. Well, you know that song on my new album I just released called "The Singer, the Songwriter." That's the #1 cut on there, and it's re-recorded. I re-recorded the song to make it a little bit more, by today's standards, I guess. It's more sonically correct. Of course, back then we didn't have anything but 8 tracks, some of 4 tracks. But we went and re-recorded all these songs, and it has a little bit different take on it. It's the same song, all right, but it's just a little bit more modern view of the song. I think you'll like it as well.
I love it. We're gonna play that. I'm gonna play that version tonight. I love it. It sounds fantastic, and I got to tell you, your voice is still absolutely amazing. You've taken care of your voice very obviously.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And
you got to keep on singing. You can't stop. If you get, it's just like piece of metal. You set it out in the rain and the weather and everything, it's going to get rusty. So you got to keep on using it, and it's a tool. You know, you just keep it up.
And a little bit of trivia for people that may not know, if you have a copy of the original album, Barrooms to Bedrooms, the front cover, if I am not mistaken, was shot at a TGI Fridays. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. I love it.
Yeah. I was 23 years old then, so, I mean, here I am sitting at a bar with a pack of cigarettes and some ladies around me and everything. It was kind of funny as I think back on it now.
You know, Charlie Rich, too, was such an awesome talent. I'm sure you did some shows with him and worked with him quite a bit, because obviously he really...
I opened for Charlie Rich for 2 years.
Did you? Yeah, tell me a little bit about Charlie.
Oh, man, Charlie Rich was just a one-of-a-kind guy. He was a great person. He took a whole lot of interest in me, and he produced my first 2 albums, actually. And he took a lot of interest in me, and whenever we would go out on the road, we were on his airplane, and he always made sure that when the plane landed, that I always got into the limousine with him. And instead of getting on the bus with the rest of the band and everything, he made sure I got in there with him. And of course, we'd drive into some place, and we'd have girls and everything beating on the limousine. And I thought I was going like, "Hey, how y'all doing?" So I played that part just a little bit. But no, Charlie Rich was just a great guy, and he was a real inspiration to me. Matter of fact, I cut quite a few of his songs on my first album, because I just thought they were great songs. And he was a terrific performer. I'm telling you, Charlie Rich, after Behind Closed Doors came out, and he got his act all laid down, he was all smooth with it and everything. He had much charisma on stage as Frank Sinatra. I mean, everybody thought the Silver Fox was something else.
He really put out some great music. I love the stuff he did in the 60s on the Smash label. And,
me too. O'Hare Sam.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff was great, and he really redefined himself when the 70s came along, and then he did it again. His last album was called Pictures and Paintings, and that's one of my favorite albums. I thought that was a brilliant project that he did.
You know, on Behind Closed Doors, the piano intro to that thing was played by Pig Robbins, who's famous session player up in Nashville. He's a blind fella, and he would come into the studio and he would sit down at the piano. He's one of the greatest piano players you ever heard. Matter of fact, he played on my first 2 albums. I wouldn't have anybody else but Big Robbins on my stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he came up with that lick for Behind Closed Doors, that intro piano line. And when Charlie heard it, he thought, man, this is just the greatest intro in the whole world to a song. And we'd be doing concerts someplace, and Charlie would come out and he would do that little did-in, 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 and then he wouldn't do the song, and the women out there would just go crazy. And so he'd do that 2 or 3 times throughout the show, and then he finally would do the song. But that's just a little aside from that. Of course, back in those days, if you had a session, you had Charlie McCoy in there, Pig Robbins, Henry Selecki on bass, Lloyd Green on steel, and no telling how many other great players and everything. But Pig Robbins was one of the lead session players in all of Nashville. Everybody wanted Pig to play on their record.
Tell me a little bit about Billy Sherrill.
I thought when he was running Epic Records, I thought he was one of the strangest guys I ever met in my whole life. Strange being mysterious, funny, that kind of, dry sense of humor and all that kind of thing is what I mean. Billy Sherrill was just the bomb. I'm not kidding you. In Nashville, he was the man. Top record producer in Nashville, one of the top songwriters in Nashville. He wrote hits for George Jones and Tammy Wynette and so many of the other ones. He wrote David Houston's Almost Persuaded. Yes, sir, that's right.
Yep.
But he was a great guy, and I really appreciated him letting me have There's a Song on the Jukebox, because that was my first record out of the box, and it was a really good record for me.
Barrooms to Bedrooms, and then, of course, your next album, Everybody's Country, which I love that, too. And you did a Charlie Rich song on there, too, All Over Me.
All Over Me, yes, sir.
I love that one, for sure.
Sure did.
And you went to RCA Records after that, right?
Oh, yeah, I was on Epic Records to start off with, and then I went to United Artists Records.
Okay.
And then in '86, I went to RCA
You had some good music on there. The Eyes of a Stranger, and
That was a little bit different song for me, Scott, because um, record labels during that time, they wanted you to cross over as much as you possibly could, and everybody was putting out songs that had the ability to cross over. And so I came across this song written by Steve Davis, Eyes of a Stranger, and I think it's still a great song. It's a little bit more out of the hard country pocket than some of the other ones I recorded, but it was a top 20 song. It was a really good song for me.
David, I'm always interested when I get to talk to a songwriter. What is your process of writing songs? Are you a person that has to have an inspiration that kind of strike you, or do you sit down and say, "Hey, I'm going to write a song"? What is your process?
Scott, it's kind of like this. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and so you can listen twice as much as you talk. As a songwriter, it's important to be able to listen. I read a whole lot. I'm a diehard reader. I watch a lot of television, things that interest me, and I hear people say certain things, and I pick up on things. And if I'm reading something that jumps out at me, I normally start songwriting with an idea, and that's the whole reason I'm telling you about this. You listen, and your mind is kind of like a computer. You take in stuff and you throw it out. If it's not any good, you throw it out. If it's good, you write it down and you expand on it. It's a process, but I normally start out with an idea and kind of develop a storyline from that, and kind of get some lyrics going, and then I start putting a melody to it. And then sometimes if I'm just messing around with the guitar and I come across a really good lick or something that really works, melody-wise, I'll start off with that. But normally it's just starting off with a really good idea.
I've heard a lot of songwriters, too, say that the big hit songs come really fast. Have you found that to be true as well?
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, Wild Horses, when Bill Shore and I wrote that song, we had it written in 2 hours. Bill called me up one day and he said, "David, I've got this idea for a song called Wild Horses. You want to write on it with me?" And I said, "Well, Bill, that's a cool idea, but there's been a bunch of songs written called Wild Horses. Wild Horses keep dragging me away. Couldn't drag me away."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about writing a rodeo song called Wild Horses Keep Dragging Me Away." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to get in my car. I'll be over at your house in 20 minutes." So I went over there, and we sat down and had the song finished in 2 hours.
Well, you mentioned The Eyes of a Stranger was kind of a different song, and your latest album, Just for the Record, you've kind of branched out and did some kind of different songs and different styles. Tell me a little bit about some of the songs on this new album.
If you talk about something that's a little bit up-tempo, I have a song called Sweet on there that is definitely country as it can be, but it's up-tempo and it's really driving. Then I have another one called Lying in the Sun on the Beach, which is the same way. It's up-tempo and it's driving and it's fun, but it's country. And then most of the things on there, the rest of the songs on there are mid-tempo country songs, but it's a little bit different because these are songs I've been squirreling away for a whole bunch of years, wanting to do another project. So I thought they were songs that were worthy of putting on an album, and so I brought them out at this time and did that.
Well, I think it's a fantastic project. And again, folks, you can go to davidwillsmusic.com, and Just for the Record's available there, as well as the singer, the songwriter. And you can get a whole bunch of David's other music on Amazon and Spotify and Apple Music, all those great places that we get our music, of course. And just some great stuff. The one I liked on that project was a gospel song, and it was called Jesus Lives Here. I think that's a beautiful song, David.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And
that song, Scott, we were sitting around and the idea came up, and we said, okay, well, how are we going to write this? And I'm from a little town called Pulaski, Tennessee, which is about 80 miles south of Nashville. And when I was a kid coming up in Pulaski, the lyric kind of went along with my raising and what our little town was like. I said, there's 13 churches and one flashing light. A flag at the courthouse waves at the sky. Old men on benches watching the world go by. That's how it was when I was a kid. And we kind of incorporated that into the song Jesus Lives Here. And I just think it's a special song. And we also wrote one called Stained Glass, too, which is, it's not a gospel song, it's a country song that, you know, if the right artist came along and put this song out, it would be an across-the-board smash, I really believe. It's a special one of those kind of songs.
During your career, were there some songs that came by that were offered to you that you passed on that maybe you wish you wouldn't have?
I'm sure there were. But back in the day when I was recording earlier, everything was sent to us on cassettes. And I would sit in the office with Blake Nevis, who was my co-writer on If You're Thinking You Want a Stranger. He produced me for RCA Records. And we went through hundreds and hundreds of songs getting ready to do a session. And I'm sure, after listening to a whole lot of songs, you get kind of wore out with it and a little bit tired and everything, and you take it, throw that one back in a box. And I'm sure that I probably passed on something that I shouldn't have over the course of time, but that's just like it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
It all depends on, you maybe not having that kind of day to hear that song that day.
So what's next on the horizon for you? I'm sure you're still writing songs. I don't think a songwriter ever stops writing or gets out of that mode. So do you have...
I try to write a little something every day, just to kind of stay in business with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've kind of fairly much wrapped up for this year and everything on account of the holidays coming up. There may be some other things that happen this year, but we're really gearing up for next year and getting a whole lot of dates, fair dates, festivals, and things like that, concerts.
Looking forward to it. DavidWillsMusic.com is the website, and please check out his new albums, Just for the Record and The Singer, the Songwriter. We're going to play some of those for you tonight. And David, keep me posted on anything going on. If I can help promote it in any way, I'm here for you.
All right, Scott, and I'll ask Wesley to keep in touch with you as well too.
I appreciate that. And thanks to him and Helen for getting us in touch today.
Dude.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe I'll get up to Traverse City and see you guys one of these days.
Oh, that would be great. We'd love to have you back up here again. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And thank you so much, not only for taking the time, but just for all the great music. My show would be shorter if I didn't have David Will's music to play. So.
Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the fans up there, too.
All right, that is David Wills. We're going to play some of his great music for you as we continue with My Kind of Country. David, thank you again.
Thank you, brother. Bye-bye.
Oh, Brother Terry, fill up your tank. If you're low on cash, you'll just write down your name. You can pick up your ticket on Friday when you get paid. Jeff checked in a buck, weighed 184. Gave the meat to the Johnsons, they needed it more. Said, saw off the rack, I'll nail it on my barn door. That stuff about loving your neighbors are words that don't fall on deaf ears. Jesus lives here. He's on every corner. He don't just show up around here on Sunday mornings. Jesus lives here. There's 13 churches and one flashing light. A flag at the courthouse waves at the sky. Old men on benches watching the world go by. Last week we showed up at Miss Mary's house when a fire in the kitchen burned it to the ground. But you ought to see the one that's standing there now. That stuff about loving your neighbors are words Jesus lives here. We find higher ground on our knees. We're down here because we believe Jesus lives here. He's on every corner. He don't just show up around here on Sunday mornings. Jesus lives here. Jesus lives here. Jesus lives here. Take a minute and think of what you're doing. You're giving your love to any man. When they tell you they love you, you believe them. But it never works out like you planned. From barrooms to bedrooms, that's where your love goes. And I know you're unhappy, 'cause woman, it shows. They won't let you be a lady, 'cause everyone knows. From barrooms to bedrooms, that's where your love goes. You've been looking in all the wrong places for a true love you can't seem to find. But if you just look over your shoulder, you'll see I've been here all the time. From barrooms to bedrooms, that's where your love goes. And I know you're unhappy, 'cause woman shows. So let me love you, and I'll take you from this life that you know. From barrooms to bedrooms, I'm taking you home. Can I lean on you, Leona? Could I rest here for a while? Could I lean on you, Leona? Help me make another mile. Could I lean on you, Leona? Would you help me till I'm strong? Could I lean on you, Leona, till I can make it on my own? Well, you have been my rock for ages, the only truth I've ever found. And every time I stumble, you pick me up on my way down. You have been my sanctuary, been my haven in the storm. And I've always found a shelter here inside your loving arms. Could I lean on you, Leona? Could I rest here for a while? Could I lean on you, Leona? Please help me make another mile. Could I lean on you, Leona? me till I'm strong? Could I lean on you, Leona, till I can make it on my own? You have always been my sunshine when I'm running from the rain. I know I'm wearing out my welcome. Just one more time, please ease the pain. Could I lean on you, Leona? Could I rest here for a while? Could I lean on you, Leona? Help me make another mile. Could I lean on you, Leona? Would you help me till I'm strong? Could I lean on you, Leona, till I can make it on my own? Sometimes I think temptation has my number on speed dial. She calls me late at night. I pour a whiskey and I light a cigarette, and we talk a while. She says, son, I know the road you're on can leave your heart so cold. Ride along with me and take a chance. Give me your soul, I'll give you the whole world in your hands. Thank God I'm a cowboy. Thank God I'm a cowboy. In that Texas sun, I've had my taste of hell. I've done things I'm not proud of, and when I came weave in and out of the troubles that laid down that dusty trail, I just hit my knees and I pray, and thank God I'm a cowboy and I can ride away. I found when you're riding highest, you got a lot farther to fall. And I remember how high I was that night I woke up, face down in some old jail out in Stonewall. And I heard my father say, son, out there on that lost highway, it's hard to find your way back home. When you get knocked down, you're on the ground. A cowboy saddles up and gets back home. Thank God I'm a cowboy. Thank God I'm a cowboy. In that Texas sun, I've had my taste of hell. I've done things I'm not proud of, and when I can't weave in and out of the troubles that laid down that dusty trail, I just hit my knees and I pray, and thank God I'm a cowboy and I can ride away. Thank God I'm a cowboy and I can ride away. I want a drink, and here's a 20, and bring my change in dimes. There's a song on let's be sure it's playing when she walks through that door. You see, I had her, but then I lost her. But I've got one more chance tonight, and if she hears it playing, maybe things will turn out right. So waitress, take a handful, I've just got to hear that song. And I'll wait here for my baby if it takes me all night long. I'm sure it's nowhere near the greatest love song in the world, but I hope she still remembers that I wrote it for my girl. Here she comes, and Lord, she's smiling, 'cause she just heard that song. And I've just got a feeling that tonight we're going home. I'm sure it's nowhere near the greatest love song in the world, but I hope she still remembers that I wrote it for my girl. Here she comes, and Lord, she's smiling, 'cause she just heard that song. And I've just got a feeling that tonight we're going home. I want a drink, and here's a 20, and bring my change in dimes, 'cause there's a song